for Dentsu Kei Shimada Sensei. Os.
I think we're on the wrong page, the presentation. Guys? Before I hack anybody's mind, I think, oh, okay, I gotta hack the people who are responsible for my presentation. All right, so good afternoon, everyone. Don't think I could speak Spanish, right? I'm a Japanese-American guy who speaks English. All right, so I'm gonna be talking about hacking the mind and utilizing emotions for human insight. There we go, all right. For those of you in the back who can't see me, I'm your typical Japanese-American guy, big smile, and I'm the global director of the innovation and business development at an agency called Dentsu in Japan, and we are Dentsu Aegis Network globally. We actually have a booth for Kara, which is under the Dentsu Aegis Network group. It's at booth 16 if you're interested. Come by. I'm also the chief lab officer for a lab called DX Lab Global, where we have 6 to 7 labs in Southeast Asia. And this is my Twitter handle if you want to rant. Okay. All right, so I live in this country of 126 million people, and I sometimes call it Blade Runner City. And this is my job. I help clients understand what they should be doing 3 to 5 years from now. My life is generally on a plane, so I basically travel the world and connect the dots. Dentsu Aegis Network has 117 locations around the globe. I'm the Global Innovation Director, so I basically take the innovation assets that we have and cross-pollinate and initiate new businesses. And I travel actually a lot. This is how much I've traveled already this year, right? Okay, so my topic today is hacking the mind, but basically what I talk about is communication and the human brain. So I don't like to categorize ourselves as your typical advertising agency or media agency because we live, or what we do is communication. So advertising and media just happens to be several methods of communication. So I like to talk about communication in general, but I also like to talk about the human mind or the human brain. It's because communication is extremely complex these days. If you look at the far left, this is how we used to communicate. We had a bonfire, we had a rug over it, and we would wave it so that we get smoke screens, up in the skies, and we would tell people, there's some danger, or I'm hungry, or what have you. But modern day technology has complicated the way of communication, and we are actually drowned in communication, right? And we're around here right now. I can't figure out what people are thinking because communication is so complex these days, right? I can't even believe my friends who are on Facebook writing positive things. I can't really tell whether it's positive or negative anymore. So my question here today is, can you really tell me can you really tell what people think or feel? Seriously. All right, so the emotion theater, okay? I'm gonna have 3 slides for you, 3 pictures, and you tell me how this person feels, okay? Watch. All right. So this represents happy, confused, and sad, right? This is actually your typical consumer, right? If you're doing digital, you don't see the faces of consumers, right? You are basically facing people who do not have a face, but they are full of emotion. They live, they interact with your brand. And unless you know how they feel, you're gonna have a very, very serious thing or an issue. Right. All right, so welcome to the final frontier of communication. Just gonna talk about the most sophisticated machine on earth, the subconscious mind, right? So you see this iceberg, right? So the conscious mind, something that we feel or interact with, only represents like 10% of what that person feels, okay? 90% is hidden under the vast ocean of people's personality, the subconscious. But that's where we actually have to look, because it's important to grasp how people feel in order to perfect your product strategy, your sales pitch, logo design, website, what have you. When you want to perfect something, what do? You do interviews, right? But you understand how people can be unreliable. People will say yes when they mean no, they'll say no when they mean yes. Imagine doing a focus group interview and having everybody say maybe to every question. What happens when you accumulate all that information, right? It's useless. So, welcome to the world of mind hacking. So, we've created this neural solution which can identify 5 emotional states of the mind, right? By just wearing a very simple headset, our algorithm can tell you whether you like something, whether you're concentrating, whether you're building stress, whether you're calm. All these emotions actually can become quantified data and allow you to understand what you're doing right and wrong. Now, we're not talking about rocket science. We're not talking about 10 years out into the future. We're talking about technology or neurotechnology, which allows you to understand emotions now. All right, who loves music? Raise your hand. All right, got it. Who loves Spotify or uses Spotify? All right, you guys are very, very lucky, because from where I come from, in Japan, we only got Spotify several months ago. Right, so what happens is that I always dig into my musical database of Duran Duran and Eurythmics, and basically they were burned from a CD, right, into my hard drive, right? I don't have a music recommendation system, right? It's really bad. But what if you could read people's emotions, and based on the emotions, you could get recommendations based on how you feel? Wouldn't that be cool? Right. So this is a video that we compiled, a service that we made 3 years ago. It's pretty fascinating. Watch this.
Music inspiration from your subconsciousness. Miko frees the user from having to select songs and artists and allows users to encounter new music just by wearing a device. The Miko system is made up of 2 parts: the Miko headphone and the Miko app for iPhone. The Miko headphone detects radio waves through the sensor on your forehead. The Miko app then automatically analyzes the user's condition of the brain and searches for music that best matches from the Miko database and plays the selection that fits the user's mood. The mood is shown on the indicator of the Miko headphone when the user is focused, when the user is drowsy, and stressed. Miko provides a new experience which we call music serendipity by detecting the user's subconsciousness through their brainwaves. Miko by NeuroWare.
All right, I thought that was pretty cool. What you saw in the end, it was called NeuroWare, right? So when we started the venture into looking into people's subconscious, as an agency, we thought it would be a bad idea for the general public to know that we were looking into your subconscious. So that's why we came up with this brand name called NeuroWare. Okay, now let's take this into a business context. Okay, now let's try to think about how we utilize emotion reading or emotion analyzing or neuroscience in a business context. I'll show you a video of what we've been doing in Japan.
A Japanese professor has come up with a new technology she claims can read minds. She says the brainwave analysis system will help businesses better understand their customers' needs.
Workers at a major restaurant chain are testing a menu item that is being developed. This device measures brainwaves from the frontal lobes of people who try the product. An application analyzes 5 feelings: how much they like something, and their interest, concentration, stress, and sleepiness. The new menu item is a cheese souffle topped with kiwi, orange, and other fruit. The app checks the reaction of a person who sees the souffle for the first time.
Please open your eyes.
When she sees the souffle, the like and interest feelings surge on the graph. This proves the dessert is visually appealing.
Now please try it.
After the first bite, the like level goes up to 60. That shows she likes how the dessert tastes. After another bite, the like level reaches 80. She really enjoys the taste of the souffle. It scores high in terms of both looks and taste. But there's an unexpected problem. When she tries to scoop up the fruit, the stress level soars to 90.
I didn't know where to put the spoon. I felt it was a little difficult to eat.
It turned out it was difficult to scoop up the fruit with a small spoon. So people at the restaurant chain are thinking of serving the souffle with a fork instead.
With the device, we can measure emotional changes in minute detail in real time.
This is a
Oops, sorry about that. I saw some people, or I heard some people laughing, right? Who cares if it's served with a spoon or fork, right? Who cares, right? But I also say this is a Japanese-specific problem, right? Okay, but let's think of it this way. What happens if you are the product owner, or you are the project manager, right? And you forget to uncover or resolve these issues before it goes live? What happens? People will start writing about their experience on Facebook. What happens when that's on Facebook? It goes viral. What happens after it goes viral? A brand image is damaged. Your reputation is damaged. What happens when that accumulates? That calculates into lost revenue. So think of it this way. Are you uncovering all these issues perfectly before anything that you do goes commercial or goes live? Are you sure that you're asking the right questions to uncover these issues before they cause major problems? Do you have the right method in place to be sure that you do something flawlessly? Ask yourselves that. Okay. My next example is something that we did with an apparel brand called Uniqlo.
With over 600 styles, Uniqlo has a t-shirt for every occasion. But with so many options, shoppers couldn't make up their minds. So we read them with Umood, a retail experience like no other. We harnessed neurotechnology to analyse brainwaves at the frontal lobe, the area responsible for our moods. With the Neuro headset on, shoppers were shown a range of stimuli to elicit an emotional response. A custom-built algorithm crunched the data to figure out how they were feeling and recommended t-shirts to match. As shoppers were shown each t-shirt, we monitored how much they liked them to determine the perfect one to suit their mood. We had some great reactions and some questionable ones. But the brain wants what the brain wants. Umood travelled to stores across Australia, helping thousands of people find their perfect t-shirt. Comedian Benjamin Law launched Umood by releasing a video online. And so everyone could get involved, we integrated the technology into Uniqlo.com, as well as Instagram. Uniqlo t-shirt sales soared, and Umood's innovative blend of science, technology, and fashion got the entire world talking.
Mind-reading technology that tells you what you really want.
Japanese retailer Uniqlo is using a brain sensor to detect your mood.
Pretty cool. So this has not been done before.
Then the next logical step is using this at home, shopping online. Wow, it reads your mind.
Uniqlo solidified their reputation as a true innovator and pioneers in the future of retail. But that's not all we need. There are now talks to roll Umood out in other markets, including Singapore, Japan, and China. We paved the way to revolutionise the retail experience. It's time to stop listening to our hearts and start shopping with our heads. After all, you can't argue with science.
If you can emotionally shop, right, I think you would be able to make more rational choices. Okay, so a sneak peek of what we're working on right now. So, how many are you from the media side or advertisers? Okay. It's always a pain to come up with the right branding or the right commercial, right? Sorry, this is not my armpit, by the way, okay? I'm not this macho. But if we have a way of evaluating a commercial before, a quantitative way of analyzing a commercial before it goes out into the wild, wouldn't that be really cool?
Time's been lean since Old Spice. Fields done near dried up.
Ain't no sweat to grow the potatoes.
At least we got each other.
All right, that was 15 seconds, okay? All right, the sole motive of making a commercial is that you want to implant the brand message or leave an impact so that people remember your brand. So what we did was we came up with a tool right now, we're refining it right now, by looking into people's interests and from the subconscious and tracking how people actually emotionally feel.
Time's been lean since Old Spice. Fields done near dried up.
Ain't no sweat to grow the potatoes.
At least we got each other.
So we could see the general trend of like and interest rise. So we have a rating system from A to D where D is the least memorable and A is the most memorable. And we would be able to grade this in A. We would also be able to say from 7 seconds to 11 seconds, there's a red dip of like. If you want to be very, very perfect, you could go back to the creative teams and say, well, can we do something for that 4 seconds because we can see that the like level is basically going south instead of north. So this is something that we'll be able to deliver through Cara here in Spain very, very soon. My last video actually is something that we are doing with nursing homes. So my grandmother passed away 5 months ago in April. She was 97 when she passed away. She was perfectly okay until 96. We put her in a nursing home nearby our home so we could visit her frequently. But when she was starting to being taken care of, her health started to deteriorate extremely fast. So what happens is that it's hard to understand even your close relatives when they have physical challenges of expressing their emotions. And we're not the only ones who build up stress. It's also the caregivers who look after, for example, like my grandmother, who also build up stress. So we created this solution called the Care Communicator to empower the caregivers to understand more about how the elderlies will respond to holding their hand, washing their body, taking care of them, you know? All these things where normally, if you are physically fit, you would smile, you would say yes, no, thank you, and all that. But if you are physically challenged, it'd be very, very challenging to understand how they feel deep inside. So this is what we did with a nursing home in Japan.
よくあるのは虐待。要は虐待なんていうのは見えないところで起こり得ている。これは何なのかというと、職員たちがストレスを抱えて、そのストレスをぶつけてしまうという環境があるんじゃないか。いつも対面する年寄りたちの気持ちがわからないとかですね。
So the lack of communication is basically the biggest problem that we encounter.
なんか相手にとってはあんまり良くなかったとか、そういうのが早く知れたらいいなっていうのは言われてましたね。ケアコミュニケーターはですね、誰でもいつでもどこでも簡単に人の感情が取りたいと思っていて、脳の信号、脳波っていうんですけれども、これを使って17年間のデータをもとに、ストレス、集中、眠気、興味を示すような、アプリケーションになっております。
sorry, the subtitles are very, very small, so I'm just going to verbally add what's going on. So if we utilize the 5 emotional states of the mind and be able to tap into the minds of the elderly who are being taken care of, the caregivers, we would relieve them from all the stress that builds up from the lack of communication. I always say that technology is not evil. If we use it for good sense, technology will be appreciated. And if we could help the world to be a better place with technology, why not do it? So we're an agency that does advertising in media, but at the same time, we want to make the world a better place, because as a communication agency, it's always getting the word out there, the message out there, and having people understand that there's value. All right, so my time is up. If you are interested in what we're doing around brainwaves, come to booth 16, Kara, and you'll find a flyer. And also, I'll be walking around for the next hour. If you want to talk to me, grab me, and let's sit down for a coffee. So thank you so much.